Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Am I the jerk for trying to get my girlfriend to exercise? After that, 10 minutes late and it cost them a fortune. And after that, am I the jerk for calling my sister cruel for her tattoo idea? Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen drops her new cell phone and cracks the screen. Come on, Reddit boy, I just got this thing. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Am I the jerk for trying to get my girlfriend to exercise? I, 26 female, am in pretty good shape. I jog every day and eating healthy is pretty important to me. I also follow a low-carb diet for health reasons. I used to have horrible IBS and mood swings. My girlfriend, Elle, who's 28, female, also eats fairly healthy overall, but I do most of the cooking. Before we got together, Elle mostly just ordered takeout and didn't cook much. We got together, and she's pretty happy overall with our eating habits because I'm a good cook, but she still buys processed junk food and less healthy items and keeps them around the house. I also bake a lot, and Elle is always happy to try what I make. Last year, I proposed to Elle, and she said yes. We're now in the stages of wedding planning. Recently, I noticed that Elle had gained some weight, and I'm a little worried about her health. Early on in our relationship, things were closed because of lockdown, and so we went on a lot of hikes together, and we used to go for walks multiple mornings a week. This, plus the fact that I was cooking for us and she was eating less takeout and processed food, led to her losing about 15 pounds by accident. She wasn't overweight, but had gained some due to lockdown, lost some, and after meeting me had lost the rest. I know living a sedentary lifestyle has its health consequences, and it really isn't good for you. I really love Elle, and I want her to be around for a long time. I feel like it's partially my fault that she's gaining weight, because we used to go for more hikes and walks together. But then I started jogging in place every morning while watching TV. It got too hot over the summer to walk, and I wanted more exercise. So now, instead of us going for a walk, I'm there jogging while Elle just sits and watches TV with me. I love Elle and find her very beautiful. I just worry about her health and her not getting enough exercise. Every now and then I suggest she jog in place with me, or I'll send her on an errand to the grocery store so she can at least get a little walk in, and she's happy to go get things, but doesn't ever jog with me. Today I tried to tell her that I was worried about her health and she got upset. I don't think I said anything bad. I told her how much I love her and how I want her to be around, but I'm worried that she doesn't get enough exercise. She took it fairly well, but was very quiet and seemed kind of sad. Later, I got an angry text from Elle's stepsister saying that I was shaming her and calling me a horrible person. Am I the jerk here? Edit. Okay, I see how everyone is focusing on the weight thing, and I'm sorry if that's how it might have come off. My main concern is Elle's sedentary lifestyle. She sits around all day for work, and some days we don't even leave the house. I apologize if I came off as being judgmental about what she eats or weighs. This has nothing to do with what she eats or how she looks. Her eating habits have gotten much better since we got together, and I don't care if she eats carbs or some junk food here and there. I'm simply concerned because her life got a lot more sedentary and she started to gain some weight. My main concern is the sedentariness. If she were the same weight, but more actively moving around and getting her heart going, I wouldn't be saying anything. Just the weight gain was what made me notice how sedentary her life had gotten. You're the jerk. You're watching your fiance's weight and not her soul. Get your crap together before you lose her forever. Why do you care about her health if she isn't overweight? This is a thinly veiled attempt to cover the fact that you have a problem with her figure. This thread disgusts me. You're the jerk. Yes, there's health benefits to exercise. Jogging in place isn't fun, and it's not really a bonding activity. Go for walks again. Change up your routine in the summer if you have to, but for goodness sake, don't send her to run busy errands like a kid because you think she needs to get off her butt. Did I miss the part where you're also her doctor? You're the jerk. Don't pretend it's her health you're concerned about. She lost weight while with you, and you preferred that version of her physically. Leave her health concerns to the medical professionals in her life. You're the jerk. Is Elle's doctor telling you she's in danger? Are you a doctor? Are you shallow? Or are you honestly tricked by diet culture and you think that saying, for her health, is anything other than a phobia? Not the jerk, but these conversations never go well. I hate the shaming label used anytime someone tries to talk about weight. There's a huge difference. Are we just never supposed to say anything about weight ever again? Ridiculous. You want to encourage a healthy lifestyle, which is good, but you're going to find very few people interested in jogging in place while watching TV. You'll have better luck compromising and doing things together again that will appeal to her. Also, maybe back off on the baking. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know. If Reddit Boy tried to encourage me to be more active, I'd probably agree. We sit here reading stories all day. 10 minutes late, and it cost them a fortune. Bobby was a CNC machinist, a good one and the only one. The company he worked for made an intricate product, and his CNC part was crucial. The rest of the product bolted onto it. The finished product sold for tens of thousands of dollars. It took 3 hours to make this piece. Bobby would make 3 a day. He'd make one in the morning, take his coffee break, then make another, and take his lunch break. That ate up 6.75 hours. He'd stay late to make the third part and make 2 hours overtime. His new foreman turned out to be more than a bit of a jerk. He tried to get Bobby to do other tasks, and Bobby said no, as he needed to monitor the CNC machine during all stages of the cycle. Foreman complained to plant manager, who then told him to back off and leave Bobby alone. One day there was a bad snowstorm, and Bobby was 10 minutes late. The foreman was there to greet him at the time clock with a grin on his face, holding a demerit slip. Bobby had clocked in a minute late the previous week, and the union rule said that if you were late twice within 14 days, you got 20 demerit points. Bobby and foreman got into a bit of an animated conversation, and the union steward came over and said that Bobby had no choice but to take the demerit hit. So Bobby went to work. His shift was 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., but he usually stayed until 6:30 to finish the last part. Not today. At 4:30, he shut the machine down and headed for the door. The next morning, foreman comes over and says that the assembly team is short a part. Yeah, I know. I'm working on it right now. It'll be done in 2 hours. But they need 3 a day. Why didn't you make 3 of them yesterday? Because my shift is over at 4:30 and I went home. What? You stay every night until the third part is finished. Bobby pulled the demerit slip out of his shirt pocket, looked foreman in the eye and said, not anymore. Bobby had done the math. Every week, instead of getting 15 parts, they were getting 10 or 11. Foreman tried to sweep it under the rug, but within a few days, chaos ensued. The assemblers had no core part, and their team went to the plant manager to let him know that production was falling. The assemblers liked it. They got to hang around yakking while they waited for the next CNC part to arrive. Eventually, there was a meeting with plant manager, union steward, and Bobby. Foreman tried to throw Bobby under the bus, saying that he refused overtime. Union steward pointed out that, as per the contract, mandatory overtime was only in case of emergencies, and this wasn't an emergency. Bobby had every right to decline the OT. Foreman lost his temper, started yelling at Bobby and union steward, and was asked to leave the meeting. Plant manager knew he was done for and looked at Bobby and asked, "What's it going to take to get you to work the overtime?" Bobby smiled and replied, "As long as foreman is my supervisor, I won't be working a minute of overtime." And that was the last anyone saw of foreman. By sticking to the contract, Bobby cost the company a handful of parts worth many thousands of dollars and put the company into a position where their lowered production would cost them even more in perpetuity. Bobby worked a couple of Saturdays to catch up and made double time for those shifts. They hired a new foreman who was explicitly instructed, do not, under any circumstances, mess with Bobby. Am I the jerk for calling my sister cruel for her tattoo idea? Sister is 28. I'm 26, male. My sister, In, has always had a strained relationship with our parents, especially my mom. I'm clearly not privy to the reasons because things are fine with me and my parents. When In went to college, she met her creative writing professor as a freshman and they got close immediately. They would do a lot together and worked closely on a few different writing projects. In never specifically said this, but it was obvious to anyone who saw them interact that they had a substitute mother-daughter type relationship, which hurt my mom a lot to see. I always thought she'd grow out of it or that the professor would move on, but 10 years later, they were still very close. About a month ago, the professor passed unexpectedly, and it really devastated In. She was really depressed over the holidays, which of course was all in front of my mom, and was a difficult reminder that In loved the professor as a mother way more than she ever loved my mom as a mother. She still talks to my parents and stuff, and they don't fight or anything, but In is very distant and doesn't tell them anything about her life beyond the bare minimum. My mom tried to comfort In, but Anne was doing her distance thing and didn't want the comfort. Something unfortunate that happened to Anne is that when she got the call that she had passed, she was brewing tea, and in the shock of the news, she spilled the water on her arm, which left a mark on her wrist. I think the burn was like on the borderline of a second or third degree, and definitely still looked pretty rough during the holidays. Anne said it was especially hard because in addition to the physical pain, every time she looks at it, she's reminded of the moment that she found out the professor had passed, which I totally get. I was on FaceTime with Anne, and she said she talked to her tattoo artist friend, who said that the burn should be able to heal well enough to get a tattoo over it. Anne then explicitly told me about her idea, which is a type of flower that the professor gave her a bouquet of for her undergrad graduation. My mom was so embarrassed that day because she didn't get Anne flowers, but the professor did, and Anne was parading them around so happy, and it was a reminder of their connection. I guess Anne and the professor exchanged these flowers for every special occasion, like birthdays, etc. So now she wants to get a decent-sized tattoo in a highly visible spot of something that will remind everyone of the professor. I told Anne that this seemed really cruel to my mom, who already feels cast aside and like she's in exile from Anne, and that's without the constant permanent reminder. Anne kind of scoffed and said, "I can't believe you think you have the right to tell me not to do this," called me a jerk and hung up, and is still not talking to me except for a very brief text saying, "Congrats for a promotion I just got." My parents aren't commenting. My dad said I should have just kept quiet, even though he agrees, and my mom made no comment but seemed grateful I stood up for her. I feel like I was just being protective of my mom. Am I the jerk? What you have described is the golden child and scapegoat kid. You being the golden child. Anne didn't get what she needed from her own mother, and she was incredibly fortunate that another stepped in and took on that role. Take your blinders off and see. Ask your sister if she felt second best growing up, and be open and silent when and to what she tells you. Yes, you're the jerk. You're the jerk. Not much else to say other than it's okay for people to have meaningful connections to humans in life who aren't their parents and honor them and that connection however they want. It's not her problem to deal with her mother's pain or feeling left out. You're the jerk. Mind your own business. Your mom being embarrassed because she forgot to buy her daughter flowers is her own darn problem. We can all tell you were mommy's golden child from this post. Your poor sister. Not the jerk. Ignore all of these people insulting you and calling you names like golden child. Most of these people don't have good relationships with their parents, so they take out their anger on those who do. They also look for excuses to play the victim card, and calling you a golden child helps them feel better about their sad lives. The fact is, you love your mom, and you're just trying to look out for her. I assure you these people insulting you don't even love their parents, probably because mommy and daddy refuse to pay for their liberal arts degrees. Oh, you're also a man trying to get your sister to show compassion to your mother. Reddit absolutely cannot stand these sorts of scenarios. They think it's wrong of men to guide or lead others, which is why the US leads the world in fatherless homes at 23%. Gee, maybe this is why we also lead the world in mental illness. Just like a classroom needs structure, so do our homes and families. When you have a society where fathers cannot play the role they've played for thousands of years, our current society is what you end up with. And it's exactly what certain groups in power have been working towards for a long time. Why? Because sick people who are hurting, lack direction, angry, bitter, unintelligent, and financially illiterate are the easiest ones to manipulate, control, and capitalize on. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his sister? Please let us know. Freak out over my child-free wedding? Okay, prepare to be embarrassed. My sister got married last summer. She had a very elegant and beautiful wedding and reception planned. It was child-free. She sent gracious notes to everyone who sent their regrets and thanked them for understanding her desires for her wedding and respecting them enough to RSVP in the negative. She also invited them to a party later that summer at her home if they wanted to take pictures with her and her wedding party in their fancy clothes. I thought it was well handled and classy. Several people did not understand the meaning of child-free and brought their kids anyways. One screamed through the ceremony, and the mom would not leave the chapel because she did not want to cause a fuss. There were no extra places for them at the reception, so their parents had to share their food with them. The worst was the kid that wanted a cupcake off the table the wedding cake was on. He tipped the wedding cake onto the floor. My dad saved it, but there was a handprint on the lowest tier and a lot of cupcakes hit the floor. All in all, it was 4 families that brought uninvited kids. My wedding invitations just went out over Christmas. We're getting married in May. I know this is a long time, but we have a lot of out-of-town, country, and even continent guests we hope will come. We did not invite these families to our wedding. We have a Facebook group for the wedding for people to share pictures and memories that we might want to put in the wedding video. They found out about the group and posted to my personal page about being excluded and asking why we're not inviting them. I messaged them privately and asked them to take down their posts and explain that my wedding was smaller and I wasn't having as many guests as my sister. They went public again and complained about me excluding them for no good reason. So I posted the receipts. I posted a video my cousin sent me of the kid crying during the ceremony and the parents doing nothing. The video of the kid freaking out because he had to share trout for supper. The before and after pictures of the wedding cake table. And I also asked if they knew in advance that they were not supposed to bring their kids to the wedding. Then everyone started piling on them. I guess there was a lot of stuff I missed, including one of them changing a kid on the table with the guest book because the closest bathroom did not have a baby station. Now they're all calling me a jerk for embarrassing them for having kids and wanting to be part of family events. I said that they could not understand why rules were in place, and that is why they're not invited. My uncle posted about how embarrassed he was that his daughter was one of these entitled jerks and offered to pay my sister for the cake that got wrecked. He had been unable to attend the wedding and hadn't heard about the cake. So, am I the jerk? Not the jerk. They tried to call you out publicly for making a decision about your wedding, and you just met them where they were. They sound horrible. No wonder you don't want them at your wedding. Not the jerk. They tried to publicly shame you for not inviting them when they could have just messaged you privately and avoided the embarrassment. They don't get to try to publicly embarrass someone only to then get upset when it gets turned right back around on them. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. That they're, in the midst of all of this, still trying to justify why they brought their kids, despite explicitly being asked not to, only underlines even more that you did the right thing. Though a bit of advice, you may want to consider having some bouncers at the door to your ceremony and reception should they try to crash. Judging from all of this, it seems like that's at least a possibility. Am I the jerk for sending my partner to work with a lettuce sandwich for lunch? So I'm 28, male, and my partner, 32, male, works full-time in construction. He makes decent money because he's like a supervisor, but he's very busy. He leaves the house by 5 a.m. every morning. I work a little doing some freelance document translation from home, but it's probably about 10 to 15 hours a week. I mainly make sure the house is in order and that my partner has everything he needs. Clean clothes, packed lunch, dinner made, house stocked, etc. It's just the two of us. We don't have kids or pets. He does housework too, mainly outdoor things like lawn care or fixing anything that breaks. Anyway, I usually go grocery shopping on Fridays. So this morning I went to make his lunch and we didn't have that much. We were out of lunch meat, so I improvised. I sent him a lettuce sandwich. It was a thick layer of iceberg lettuce with tomato, onion, cucumber, Swiss cheese, and mayo on a large Kaiser roll bun. And then I sent a Tupperware of these seasoned, crunchy chickpeas that I make in the oven, 2 Linder chocolate balls, and a can of flavored fizzy water. I thought it seemed like a decent lunch. Anyway, my mom used to make lettuce sandwiches when we didn't have money. Well, he texted me that he was mad. He said, "What is this? It's just lettuce." I said we didn't have any meat, and I was just trying to put something together in the morning before grocery shopping. He said, "This is not a lunch. I'm going to be hungry all day now. It's fine if we didn't have anything, but just tell me and I'll order in a lunch. Now it's too late to order anything because you made me think I had an actual lunch, but it's just lettuce." In general, he's not one of those carnivore men who just eats meat at every meal, but we do usually have meat. His job can be stressful, so I just apologized and said I'd do that next time. He didn't respond, but now like 3 hours later, he just texted, "Yeah, you're sorry, but you don't really know what it's like to have to do hours of physical work on an empty stomach." I didn't respond, but now I'm feeling a little annoyed with him. Like, does he really have an empty stomach? It was a lunch after all. He's pretty big, like 6 foot, 220 pounds, basically no fat on him. So maybe he does need more. I don't know. In general, I know he works very hard and I get to have a relatively stress-free life. So I feel bad making his day harder than it has to be. but I feel like he's kind of exaggerating. Anyway, it's not going to be a big issue, and I already went to the store and I'm making homemade bacon double cheeseburgers and fresh cut fries for dinner. But I was just wondering if it's really so bad to send a lettuce sandwich for lunch. Edit. So the man is fed and happy. I didn't bring it up or act angry or anything, I just let it go, and he did apologize on his own after dinner. He basically said, "Sorry, I didn't mean to be a jerk about lunch, but yeah, next time just let me know if we're out of meat and I'll order some food." And I just said, "Yeah, sorry about that. My brain probably wasn't fully functioning that early." And that was it. Now we're chilling on the couch together, so all good. Oh, and the people wondering why I didn't have food in the house, this man housed an entire tray of enchiladas for dinner yesterday that I was expecting to have leftovers to send for lunch today. I was gonna send that with a salad, not on bread, and some crackers and the chocolates. That's why I was at a bit of a loss this morning. Anyway, thanks for the responses. Lots of not the jerks, but you're the jerks from people who have actually been in my partner's situation, so I'll just be more mindful of that going forward. Thanks all. Not the jerk. It's not a lettuce sandwich, it's a cheese salad sandwich. Not the jerk. He shouldn't be taking this out on you. You prepared him a lovely, hearty vegetarian meal. A couple slices of ham aren't going to change the impact of that meal overly much. He's being a baby and owes you an apology. You need to apologize or I won't be making your lunches going forward. But it was a cheese sandwich. I mean, a cheese sandwich with a bunch of bonus stuff, but still. I've had so many cheese sandwiches in my life. I think you could have let him know that you'd packed him a cheese sandwich if he normally has meat sandwiches, but not the jerk on packing a perfectly normal lunch of a cheese sandwich. No jerks here. I agree that the lunch was tiny for someone who works construction. That job is extremely physically demanding, and most people I know who do this kind of work eat big lunches because it makes you very hungry. So yes, you did not give him enough food, but you didn't do it intentionally. His reaction was a bit over the top, but I get it. In the moment when you're very hungry, you're looking forward to a nice lunch, and it's a shock to discover you have a lot less than you expected. Just ask him how much he needs for lunch and take this to heart. Not the jerk. Your partner is free to make his own lunches. Edit. To everyone arguing with me, I totally agree that OP should help out with their share, considering their partner bears the brunt of the finances. OP's partner's reaction was way over the top, and anyone who doesn't agree with that, I question how you treat others as well. I'd say my vote is probably more between not the jerk and everyone sucks here, as OP could have said, "Hey, we are a little light on groceries, so would you rather grab something out versus me making your lunch?" Am I the jerk for telling my sister her baby's name is stupid? I, 21 female, found out not too long ago that my sister, B, who's 36, is pregnant after a long struggle with infertility, and I'm pumped and can't wait to be an aunt. Last week was the gender reveal party where B broke down crying after cutting the cake and seeing that it was pink inside. Her and her husband are thrilled because they apparently wanted a girl. She said right then that the baby would be named Mary. For reference, B is a born-again Christian. She found Jesus during her third time in rehab. She'll go on and on to anyone who will listen about how she had visions of the Virgin Mary by her bedside telling her that she would get better, that the pain was temporary, and how she would do great things after recovering. That was 8 years ago. She met her husband not long after that, in church, of course, and fell head over heels in love, saying that God made them for each other. I kind of just rolled my eyes at the declaration. Mary is just so old and boring. B asked me what was wrong. I was honest and told her that I thought the name was a little boring. At least she could do something like Miriam and make Mary a nickname. It's 2023. Kids will make fun of her for having an old lady name once she's older. I myself have an old lady name. Think Edith or something, and it's a pain. Kids in grade school constantly called me Grandma Edith and the sort, saying that I was destined to be an old hag who would live in the woods and have a crooked nose. I'm also worried for the baby. B isn't a reliable person. She's been sober for years, and everyone still walks on eggshells around her. She used to run off to go on binges all the time, a few times leaving me home alone as a kid so that she could go get some more while our parents were out. She brought it up a few days ago, mentioning how she was hurt I didn't like the name, and asked if I was being honest in my feelings. I told her I was. Mary is a stupid name. She'll get bullied in school for it. Or at the very least, if she goes to some kind of Christian school, it'll confuse the crap out of her because every other girl will be called Mary. She called me cruel and a jerk and accused me of hating her and not caring that she was finally in a good place in life. As if she hasn't been in a good place in life before and relapsed, leaving our parents in debt, paying for therapy and rehab that don't work, and letting us clean up all of her messes over and over again. Am I the jerk? You're the jerk. Mary is a perfectly normal name. Your suggestion of Miriam sounds a lot more old-fashioned to me. Regardless, you were extremely rude to your sister. Not the jerk. Honestly, you're right. It's 2023, and sadly, you still have people naming their babies things like John and Mary. But considering the fact that she is a Christian, good luck trying to talk any sense into her. This is why I spend so much time on Reddit. People who comment here are usually smart enough to not do the whole God thing, and it shows because of how intelligent we are. Am I the jerk for abruptly quitting my volunteer work with pelicans? I study zoology in university, and as part of our degree, we're supposed to get a certain amount of field experience. Also, most good zoos and animal internships demand it. So when our ornithology professor mentioned a volunteer opportunity with pelicans through some local group, I thought that sounded cool and I signed up and was one of 2 students chosen. It was supposed to be the 2 of us and a professional helping to band young pelicans for research. Whenever you slip a little band around their ankle, that's unobtrusive to the birds, but useful for tracking purposes. So the 3 of us got out to the island for a long day of pelican banding. The professional showed us how to do it and how to deal with an uncooperative pelican, and then I gave it a try on one and I did it right. But then the 3rd pelican I tried it on threw up all over me as I was doing it. I let it go and started gagging and really felt nauseated. My whole lap and shirt were covered in it and the smell was horrendous. I just sat there retching and trying to wipe it off, but to not much avail. After a few minutes, the professional said, "Hey, come on, we've got a lot more to do. I've been thrown up on 2 already, nothing to worry about." But I said, "No, I'm not going to get thrown up on 10 more times today while doing this. I can't handle that." He got annoyed and said, "Really? You're going to leave 3 people's work with just 2 people for the day? We said it would be messy work." I thought, well, not this messy. So I just sort of sat there for a few hours while they worked and tried to distract myself from the vomit-stained shirt with my phone until it was time to leave. The trip back was crappy too. They both stunk so bad I couldn't take it. Needless to say, my professor is mad at me, but I'm not sure what I was supposed to do. I would have gotten sick myself if I had kept at it, so I feel like I did the best I could. Am I the jerk? You're the jerk, and probably in the wrong field. Maybe switch to paleontology. No throwing up when they're fossilized. You're the jerk. You were there being stinky all day anyway, but instead of being useful, you messed around on your phone. The whole point of field work is to show you what doing the job in the real world would look like. Sounds like you found out that you're studying in the wrong field and need to adjust your sails. My neighbors cut down our trees to improve their view. So I live with my parents as I'm only 14, and my parents decided they wanted a holiday house that they can work on and use to get away from life. When we moved in, we talked to the neighbors. On one side is the nice neighbors, a lovely couple who have just moved into their first house, and on the other side are the entitled neighbors who rent their house to any people who want to have parties. When we look around the garden, we see 3 very tall trees, healthy trees which have probably taken about 200 years to grow. And as we are on a dip, these trees block the view of the house on the other side of the dip very well from seeing into my parents' room and bathroom, which doesn't have curtains on the windows. I think you can see what's about to happen. We have to go back to our other house so my mom can go back to work when my mom got a call from the nice neighbors and this conversation ensued. "Hey, you need to come back here right now. The entitled neighbors are on your property with chainsaws and I don't know what they're planning to do." "Wait, what? Can you stop them?" "I'm so sorry, but my ferry is about to leave and I need to go to work. However, I can call the police if you want. I know all of them very well, so they'll come quickly." "Yes, please. I'll get my dad to get on the next ferry and get there as fast as he can." However, when the police got there, they were gone. I had just gotten out of school, and because my dad needed to pick me up, I went with him to see what had happened. When we got there, we see this view. The 3 trees are gone, and what is left are 3 very hacked-at tree stumps and some glass. They had cut down our trees and in the process smashed parts of the glass wall around the deck. Hearing chainsaws, we look over. There's no fence yet. We see 3 mid-30s men cutting wood up, probably for firewood. This is when the entitlement really starts. "Hey, why did you cut down our trees?"
"Oh, hey, we were just looking over to your side and noticed that if these trees fell, it could really mess up your house. And being new neighbors, we thought we should do the neighborly thing of cutting them down for you. A sort of new neighbors helping each other out."
What? Those trees were really healthy. Also, you trespassed and cut down our tree without our consent. We're calling the cops on you. The neighbor got so angry at my dad for saying that.
"What the heck, dude? We improved your view and made sure the trees wouldn't hit your house. We helped you. Why call the police on us?"
Now my dad hates being called dude. Also, he's a lot stronger and bigger than they are. So he just walked inside while I stayed standing there, not really knowing what to do. Then the oldest, like 40 years old, looks at me and says,
"Hey, sweetie, if you stop your dad from calling the police, we'll give you an ice cream."
I just turned around and walked inside, as the way he said it was so creepy. Fast forward about a week, and we find out that the trees they cut down actually blocked their view of the sea, and them cutting the trees down helped the view from their rental. Now they've been fined a lot of money and have to do some community work, as well as pay us enough money to put up a fence so that we don't have to see them anymore. Entitled neighbors have also started to rent out, so hopefully we don't ever have to see them again. Edit. I just found this out and I need to share it. 1. My mom has added trees, but they'll take about 100 years to grow tall. 2. We're figuring out the boundary so that we can plant bushes so that the fence is harder to build, though that does unfortunately mean I can't paint it. 3. For everyone saying build a high fence, the build limit on height for fences will not allow this. And 4. Turns out they have a dog that used to go to the bathroom on ours and the nice neighbors' yards, so nice neighbors are prepared to watch them build this fence while we are not at the house to make sure that they don't do anything wrong. Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video. Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.